Making a good presentation is a very important skill to learn in today's digital economy because being able to present your ideas to your target audience in a very convincing manner comes with a lot of advantages. And so that is our focus for today's lesson. I'm going to give you some top tips for making a good presentation. As I walk you through the procedure for presenting your content, you'll be able to learn the best presentation skills. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Click on the bell icon as well so that whenever a new video goes live on the channel, you will be notified instantly. On this channel, we teach you not only the English language, but how you can use the language as a tool for creating content, because we know that a language is a powerful tool for creating content. And if you can create content, then of course you can monetize your content and create multiple streams of income for yourself on various online platforms. So these are the kinds of ideas we share on this channel. And if you are interested in videos like this, which of course we upload every week, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and activate the notification system so that you won't miss any new videos that we upload on the channel. Now, having said this, let's dive into the lesson right away. Let's have a quick look at the lesson objectives. In this lesson, we are going to discuss the following items. Number one, what is a presentation? Two, why is presentation an important skill to learn? Three, planning your presentation in four easy parts, in four definite parts, A, B, C, D. A, opening or the introduction. B, the body of the presentation, which involves the procedure and the transition words. C, the conclusion, which is the closing part. And D, questions and answers, or Q&A if you like. Now let's take these items one by one. What is a presentation? Well, a presentation is, it can be a speech or a talk in which you show and explain a new product, an idea, or a piece of work to an audience. Okay, that is basically what a presentation is about. It is the practice of showing and explaining the content of a given topic to an audience. Okay, and of course, a presentation is an informative talk such as a lecture or a speech. And of course, a good presentation usually makes use of visuals such as, PowerPoint or Google Slides, which of course you can easily uh, project onto a screen, just like what you can see that I am doing right now. You can project your PowerPoint or Google Slides onto a screen while you talk to your audience. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. So from what you can watch me do right now, you will understand what it means to present something to an audience. Okay. Now, why is presentation an important skill to learn? Well, it is an important skill to learn because a presentation is a very important means of communication which you can use for various speaking situations. For example, when talking to a group of people, or when addressing a board meeting, or when hosting a seminar. Of course, it could even be a webinar, an online seminar. Okay. Now, once you are able to present, then you can use any of these platforms or occasions to present or share your ideas. Present your ideas to your target audience or share your ideas with them. Now, making a presentation offers a good opportunity for you to communicate your ideas or views to your target audience. So all these are the benefits of learning a presentation skill. Now, knowing how to make a good presentation can help you to achieve various purposes. All right. You can inform your audience if you have some pieces of information that you want to pass across to your audience. You can educate your audience, you can persuade your audience, you can inspire your audience, you can use the presentation to solve some challenges. Okay. Now, you need presentation skills to be able to share your ideas on various important occasions, such as seminars, workshops, and training sessions, or even events organized by government departments, clubs, organizations, and societies. Sales presentations, speeches for special occasions, company reports, or briefings. These are various occasions, various forums that present you with the opportunity to share your ideas with your audience. And so knowing how to present will enable you to share your ideas with your audience. Now, being able to make a good presentation comes with a lot of benefits, because when you make a good presentation that really captures and holds the attention and interest of the audience, people will understand the message you have conveyed to them. People will be interested in your ideas or products. And of course, they will likely buy into your ideas or purchase your products. You know, uh, once you make a call to action and your audience have really developed interest in what you have said, they are convinced, then of course they will comply. Now, on the contrary, making a bad presentation comes with a lot of drawbacks. People will not pay attention to your message. Most of them will find your presentation so boring that they may even slip off. And of course, the most painful aspect is that they will likely conclude that your ideas or products are not important, so they won't pay attention, they won't buy your products, they won't subscribe to your ideas or to your platform. And so it's important to learn good presentation skills. Now, let's move on to the next item, and that is steps needed to make a good presentation. There are certain steps you need to take, and you need to plan your presentation to cover, at least the three main parts that make up the structure of a good presentation. And I want us to look at these three parts: the opening, that's number one, the body of the presentation, and the conclusion. So if you look at this, the three main parts presented here, the opening comes first, and it should take about 10% of your presentation. Under it, you introduce yourself, outline your topic, briefly cover your key points, mention when you plan to take questions from the audience. So normally the opening or the introductory part of your presentation is meant to uh, show your audience what the presentation is all about and how you intend to go about it. Then the body of the presentation, which should take about 70%, is where you develop your key points, elaborate on arguments and ideas, and provide supporting evidence. That's basically what the presentation is about. This is where you show them everything you need to show them, discuss everything you need to discuss with them in detail. And then the closing part or the concluding part, which should take about 20%, is where you indicate that you're about to finish. Let them know you have rounded, you are rounding off, and then you reemphasize your main points, you summarize everything you have said, and then you tell them it's time for them to ask questions, if any. It's time for questions and answers. In some presentations, it might be necessary for your audience to ask you some questions based on what you have discussed, and then you give responses by way of clarifying any areas that they didn't quite understand or they want additional information about. So that is exactly what it is. You can pause this video and look at the three main parts of the presentation in greater detail: the opening, the body, and the closing. Now let's move on to look at what your introduction should look at, the opening part of your essay. Of your presentation. We are not dealing with essay this time. We are looking at presentation generally. Now, it's ideal you start with a short introduction of yourself. You say your name and you mention the organization you are representing, such as your school or company or a government department, as the case may be. For example, you can say, hello, everyone. My name is, at the beginning of this video lesson, I introduced myself to you and I said, this is Benjamin from English Classes Online. And so I told you my name and I also told you the organization I represent. So that basically is very important. And so you can say, I am going to give a presentation about, then you mention what it is all about. Or you can say the presentation will be in three parts. For example, first, second, third, if you have, well defined subtopics, okay? Then you can say the presentation will cover, you mention the subtopics, subtopic 1, subtopic 2, subtopic 3. Again, during the introduction, it's important you let them know how you are going to deal with their questions, whatever questions they may have, okay? Because there is need for you to let them know how they can, ask questions so that they won't just intrude or interfere with the natural flow of your presentation. If you are having an online webinar, for example, an online seminar, then of course you may want them to type in whatever questions they have in the chat box. For example, you can say, please feel free to ask questions, send questions in the chat during the presentation. So you spell this out so they will know exactly, they won't be confused, okay? Or you may decide they should hold whatever questions they have till the end of the presentation. And so you can say, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. So it's important you introduce right from the outset, let them know exactly what you are going to talk about and how you are going to talk about it and how they can interact with you during the presentation. So all these are important. Now let's take a look at examples of transition words or phrases that you can use when presenting your content. Now, for example, you can use the following when introducing a topic. For example, the topic I am going to focus on today is X. The topic of my presentation is X, which is, you mentioned the topic, I am going to explore X, Then when introducing solutions, if your presentation is about solving some challenges, then you can say, let's look at two ways in which X can be solved. Or you can say a better solution might be X. Or when considering how to solve this issue, X might be the ideal way to go about it. Then when introducing some visuals, you might say, I would like to show you X, or here we can see X. Like I earlier mentioned, a presentation usually involves some visuals. And of course, when you want to present something you want them to see clearly, you draw their attention. Then transition phrases are used when you want to move from one part of your presentation to another, from one section to another, from one idea to a new idea. For example, you can say, I would like to continue by next looking at X. You are letting them know the next thing you are going to talk about. Or you can say, this leads me to my second point, which is X, for example. Okay, or let's next focus on X. Then you mention what you are going to talk about next. It's always important for you to let them know what you are going to do next. Now, when providing examples, you can say one example of this is X, or we can exemplify this point by looking at X, for example. Then there might be need for you to provide the source from which you have taken certain pieces of information. For example, you can say X argues that, so you are crediting a scholar or a source with the kind of information you want to provide to back up the point you are making. Or you can say it's claimed by X that, or according to X, all right? So when providing sources, you can also use such phrases as we have mentioned. Okay? Now, let's look at some specific examples of how you can introduce your presentation. Now, these examples are taken from study.com. So according to study.com, you can introduce your presentation in a typical way as follows. Welcome. Today we are going to learn about use of color and fonts when creating slides for our PowerPoint presentation. And that is when the topic of the presentation is PowerPoint presentation. Now, according to study.com, the following could be introduction with a hook. Hello everyone, I am so glad you could join me today. I am very excited about this topic. Did you know that different fonts and colors emit certain emotions? For example, did you know that Calibri is one of the friendly fonts and Stencil is considered cold and forceful? So one thing I find interesting about this introduction with a hook is the use of rhetorical questions. Now, what a rhetorical question does is that it enables you to emphasize a point, so that the audience will know how important it is that this thing be discussed, So a hook is a sentence or a group of sentences designed to grab the attention of the audience. And so these are examples of how you can introduce your presentation. Now, the body of your presentation, also has certain procedures and certain transition words you can use. For example, you can begin by saying, first, I would like to talk about, then you mention the first subtopic you want to talk about. Or you can say to start with, these are transition phrases or words. Then when moving from one point to another, one subtopic to another, you can say, okay, now I would like to move on to, then you mention subtopic number 2, all right? Now, so those are ways of presenting, uh, you know, your ideas in a way that makes them interconnected, moving, naturally from one section to another. You can use WH words such as why, what, how, and so on. Then, of course, when presenting the last subtopic, you can say, finally, I would like to talk about, so transition words and phrases are a very important way of, making your presentation interconnected, coherent, in a manner that enables your audience to flow naturally with you and to follow your line of argument during the presentation. Then let's look at more examples of transition words you can use during your presentation. Now, the first will be transition words and phrases you can use in the opening part or the introductory part. Examples are to begin with, to start with, in the first place, firstly, first, the first way, the first reason, these are naturally some, transition phrases and or words that you can use. Now, to connect ideas from one to the next, you can use these words or phrases. Additionally, another reason why, secondly, thirdly, next, also. One last example, for instance, for example, lastly, in fact, furthermore, moreover, the last reason. So these are all transition words and phrases you can use in moving from one idea or from one section to the other. Now, when closing, you can use in conclusion, to sum up, to summarize, in summary, finally, to wrap it all up. Therefore, you can see why, a whole lot of words, transition words and phrases that you can use. Now, let's move on to the next one. Examples, still on examples of transition words, and this has to do with beginning a new section of the presentation. You can use any of the following. Now, let's move on to, then you mention the next subtopic. Now, excuse me. Now, let's take a look at, now, I would like to move on to, next, I would like to take a look at, moving on to the next part, I would like to, moving on to the next section, let's take a look at, these are transition words. But these examples are not meant for you to copy them like a copycat. Now, originality is the key to success in presentation. The hallmark of a good presentation is that your ideas have, have been, generated naturally. So don't copy other people's ways of presenting, but be down to earth and come up with your own unique expressions where necessary. Of course, you can use any of these transition words. They are all commonly used by presenters, okay? Now, let's move to the conclusion. and look at the procedure and transition words. You can conclude by saying, I would like to conclude today's presentation by, okay, or to end today's presentation. All right. Now, these are some examples that you can use when concluding and summarizing the presentation. For example, well, that brings us to the end of the final section. Now, I would like to summarize by, or you can say that brings us to the end of the final section. Now, I can just summarize the main points again. Another way of concluding is that concludes my presentation. Now, I can just summarize the main points. Okay, so there are different ways of concluding. And once you have concluded, you must come up with a call to action to let the audience know that now they can begin to ask questions. If your presentation is such that requires the Q&A, questions and answers, then you must come with a clear call to action. That's what we mean by CTA. For example, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them. You have let the audience know you have, you have concluded your presentation. Now is their own time to ask questions. You may use the following way. You can say thank you for your attention, which of course is a good way to wrap it up. And then you can simply say any questions or comments, that is a way also of, bringing them to the point where they can ask questions and get responses from you. And this is where we draw the curtains on today's video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video and share it with your friends and relations. Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you